Well, hello. So today I'm going to show a mission that I've been trying to get to work for years. What we have here is approximately 470,000 ton spaceplane. And the idea is to bring bases to Duna, Mun, and Minmus without doing any refueling, and doing it all on mission, and having a substantial amount of cargo. So right off the bat, you can see this is a bit of a beast and needs a little extra boost to get enough speed to get off the runway here. But once we're off the runway, it'll be a pretty standard ascent. But it is a very heavy plane, so it's going to need a little boost to get past the 430 meter per second mark, as we'll see in a moment here. So I'll do a slight dive here and turn on the vectors, and that gets us to a critical speed for the rapiers. So now we're just going to build speed. When we hit about 10,000 meters above sea level, we'll level off, get a little more speed before pulling up, and this will get us to orbit. Although we're going to need all the engines. A little boost from the rapiers and closed cycle, but then we're just going to rely on the more efficient engines here. We're going to use up most of our oxidizer. We still have a bunch left, but that's for the lander. We'll see that later. Just doing the finishing the circularization burn here. And now we can see the mission cargo. I'll let you pause this if you want, but sort of listed all the bits and pieces. We have about 5,000 Delta V at the moment, which will be more than enough for the mission at hand. We are going to utilize a lot of aero braking in this as well. So I've started the burn to Duna, and we're going to do this in several passes here. Just because the thrust to weight ratio on the nerves, even though there's 12 of them, isn't very much considering the mass of the plane. And most of this video will be fast forwarded to some degree or another. Otherwise, this mission is just going to take way too long to watch. Now, a lot of things went right, a lot of things went wrong as well. So here we're doing aero capture at Duna, and we'll make a couple passes here, and this is going to save us some Delta V. And once we're in a stable orbit, the first order on the agenda here is going to be putting up some satellites. We're going to do 2 comm relays and then 1 deep space relay, so we get nice coverage of the planet here. In addition, we'll have a survey satellite that we're going to put out as well. Here's the deep space relay. Do ComSat number 1 here. And ComSat number 2. Finally, the survey sat. And it went by real quick, but right there we knocked off half of its solar panels, but it's got enough. So we got that in the polar orbit, did our scan, and now we're gonna finish the orbits of the rest of the satellites here. Just putting them on different inclinations here so we get a nice coverage. Alright, now we're finding a good spot for the lander. We've transferred crew member. For this lander, we've got a habitat as well as a return vehicle. That's going to be mainly to return science back to Kerbin after a long, extended collection process. Alright, so we've touched down here, and now you're going to see this innovative rolling deployment process here. We're finishing up the setup touches here. We got solar panels, stabilization, and in addition we do have cargo space for a number of deployable science items. So we'll go ahead and place those around. And now we're going to return the lander back to the main plane here. And a bit of fiddling with the nodes to get a nice intercept here. Alright, now we're finally lined up with the main space plane, and we're just going to have to do your standard docking maneuver here. And I found the easiest way to do these things is to put the camera in locked mode, and that'll orient it. It's easy to tell which way your thrusters are for up, down, left, right, forward, back. And in future parts of the video, I'll probably speed this up even more once we get the idea of how this works here. Alright, now we're going to refuel the lander. It's only partially refueled because the original plan was to go to Minmus next, but we'll see that that changed. Now here we've got another bit. This is a deployable solar electric plane with a bunch of science equipment, and I'm just unlocking all the joints so this will unfold nicely. I had to take these out of the action groups because there's just so many things in this build that, you know, all the things were getting in the way. So now the plane's unfolded, and as you can see, the propellers here do tilt. This is a vertical takeoff and landing capable craft too. I might have to do a whole separate video on this. So now it's got little jets attached to it. We're going to deorbit with that and then jettison those engines and fuel tanks. Just for deorbiting purposes here. But I still had to do a lot of fiddling with the action groups. Now the idea is to fly this to all the different biomes, collect all the specimens, and eventually come back to the base, and then we'll put all the science in the return rocket. Because this part of the mission will take quite a long time, and we're not going to wait around for it. To collect a little science there. And first thing to do is just head to a nice landing here. This landing is a little bit rougher than I had initially would have liked, but I think the elevation here is actually quite high, and so the air is a little thinner. So I come down for a nice, perfect 5-point landing there. Do a little more science, and then we're going to switch back here for the rest of the main mission. First though, we have to reload the lander for the next part of the mission. And so we have a little space tug here. Basically it's just a small remote control craft with a grabber. And we're going to go to the other cargo bays. We're going to grab another habitat. This was a rather tedious part of the mission, but the next item is a rocket-powered science vehicle. Essentially, it's made to hop to the different biomes on Mun and Minmus. And much quicker to get around than a rover. Okay, now we just have to stow the RCS tug back in its bay. And we'll be ready to transfer back to Kerbin. Now the initial idea was to aerobrake at Kerbin and get a nice elliptical to intercept with Minmus. As it turned out, I ended up getting an encounter with Mun first, so I decided to just go with that. Here we have a nice graceful capture there. And this is all pretty standard here to enter into a nice orbit of the Mun. And now, because I had originally intended to go to Minmus first, we're going to have to add a little bit more fuel to the lander. Alright, we'll transfer scientist and engineer, and Valentina Kerbin will take the lander down. And now we're just going to drive it to a more flat location here, the bottom of the crater. And again, we're going to use the rolling technique to deploy the bases. And at this point, I'm about to find out that while I had room for deployable science, I forgot to put any of them in the cargo. So we'll have to send that with another mission. And this is just a little biome hopper going to the rim, collecting some more science, coming back. And now our little Kerbal's just going to transfer science into the lander itself. And we're just going to take it right back up to the mothership. Sorry, the footage is so dark there. I didn't think to time this into the daylight. Okay, once again, transferring some fuel. We don't need very much for Minmus. And now we have to reload another habitat and another biome hopper. And I've sped the footage up quite a bit here because you kind of get the idea at this point. Alright, at this point we're still looking pretty good for Delta V. And we're going to need to get our encounter with Minmus. And now for Minmus, we still have a couple comm satellites left, so we're actually going to deploy those in perpendicular orbits here, so we have nice coverage. And then aside from that, this landing mission is going to be very similar to the one. We've got habitat and hopper. Could take the hopper up to the ridge, do a little science, come back down. And this is a mission I'd had wanted to do for a long time, but trying to get a space plane to carry all the things, have enough delta V for this mission, and actually make it to orbit was a bit of a challenge. This footage, lots of save points, as there were lots of missteps as well. Alright, now we're redocking the lander. We're going to transfer the fuel out for a little better balance on return. And then we're just going to lower our orbit to aero brake at Kerbin. And do a couple passes here. Do a little orbit correction so I can get a nice trajectory back to the KSC. Now this plane was actually pretty easy to fly due to the large wing area compared to its weight when empty. The frame rate was still abysmal because this plane actually still has a lot of parts. It did take me a few tries to nail this landing. The last attempt was pretty good. I only lost part of a tip of a wing, but it was still on the runway, mostly. And I'll leave some links in the description for this plane so you can play with it yourselves. And there's the wing. And we can get right back on the runway here like nothing happened. And because I didn't plant a flag on any other locations, figured I might as well do one now. Alright, thanks for watching.